This week on the WriterCon podcast,
get yourself a network. The words don't matter. The writing will come. Get yourself a network. Get yourself friends in the writing world.
Welcome to WriterCon, a gathering place for writers to share their knowledge about writing and the writing world. Your hosts are William Bernhardt, best-selling novelist and author of the Red Sneaker books on writing, and Lara Bernhardt, author of the Wantland Files book series.
Thank you, Jesse Ulrich. Hey there, writers. Thanks for joining us today. Everyone here at WriterCon Central is back from their travels or ready to go back to the much more important work of being writers and podcasters and sound engineers. Jesse, how was Ireland?
Ireland was lovely. It was like the southern island of New Zealand, but with just a lot more people. Just like, apparently we were blessed with incredibly good weather. It sprinkled once, and apparently it was supposed to rain the entire time. It was like sunny and 60s and beautiful, and everyone was very kind and sweet, and the food and beer and whiskey was delicious.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Now, all the posts I saw were from Northern Ireland. Were you just there, or did you go into the nation of Ireland?
Yes. We started off in Belfast for Michelle and I's anniversary, and then we met some friends in Dublin, and then did a couple days in Dublin, a couple days in Cork, and then went down to this tiny port city to take a boat ride to the island where they filmed all of like Luke Skywalker's intro scenes in, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, and then went back to Dublin for a day, and then back to Belfast to fly out.
So you were in Dublin a lot. This is a book podcast. I got to ask, Did you see the Book of Kells?
We did see the Book of Kells. The Book of Kells exhibit was awesome. We also went to the Museum of Irish Literature, which was very James Joyce heavy, obviously. They actually had like one of the original copies that was sent back to him. That they have
Ulysses?
Of Ulysses, yeah. And that was really cool. The Book of Kells is incredible. And again, as a Jewish person, I'm looking at the Book of Kells as just a really cool illustrated book, right?
Pretty.
But it's fascinating. Like just the history of it and everything. And by the way, for our listeners and viewers, if you're ever in Ireland, make sure to stop by museums. Their museums are incredible.
Wow. So, all right.
Especially and I'm never going to say this again, especially the Titanic Museum in Belfast. Blown away by this museum. It was incredible.
Okay. Good to know. Lara, you just got back from the OK Book Awards, where it looked to me that about half of the nominees were books you edited. How was that? I'm not exaggerating either.
You were
slightly.
I mean, you were there. You were there as one of the finalists. So huge congrats to you. I did touch a lot of the books that were finalists this year, which was wonderful. I was so excited to see that come out. It doesn't hit the same as having one of your own books up there, but I know I've been busy helping other people, and it also made for a very relaxed evening. There was no anxiety. Fun.
No, you're like Tinkerbell. You sprinkle fairy dust on other people's books, and they can fly.
Yeah,
I made that work so well.
Did very nice.
A little applause from Jesse. All right. Our interview today is with Mark Stevens, who is a former reporter, PR man, and TV news producer who turned his hand to writing fiction. His award-winning novel, The Fireballer, was named Best Baseball Novel in 2023, and he has also written several crime and mystery novels, including Trapline, which came out a couple years ago and got a lot of attention. His new novel is No Lie Lasts Forever, which involves a reporter investigating a cold case serial killer who may have returned. But first, the news. News story number one. The Million Lives Book Festival turns out to be a disaster and possibly a complete scam. You may have read this. It happened while I was out of town, but I couldn't resist putting this on the podcast. Anyway, authors and visitors, there are about 100 authors and about 40 visitors total, say that they are out thousands of dollars after paying to attend or to have sales exhibit tables at this Million Lives Book Festival held in Baltimore. There are now, go check it out, dozens of social media or TikTok posts, videos, authors saying they were, this is a quote, duped into attending a low quality book fair with poor attendance because there was really nothing there except a big empty room. Some of you are now probably hearkening back to that fake Willy Wonka experience, I think was in the UK somewhere, or the similar Bridgerton, everybody shows up in costume and there's nothing there. Here people were told to come in black tie, and people did. They're wearing these fancy ball gowns and tuxes and nothing. I mean, I guess this is going to happen and everybody should check it out before they show up, but I didn't expect it to ever happen in the book world, you know? I mean, a fake book conference, I guess it's a reminder of how important it is to do your research and attend quality events, even if they aren't necessarily the cheapest. This one was, and look what happened. They lured so many people to this thing, and authors are hoping to get a little recognition, maybe sell some books. Others are hoping to meet people, and it's just a disaster. I think Jesse's got a video of the conference, which is basically this empty convention center room. The TikTok videos show this undecorated room with concrete floors and some folding tables, a chair set up. There was no program as such. And of course, the sales page said no refunds. Now, to be fair, one of the organizers may be backing off of that and has said on TikTok that they're going to try and do refunds. But anyway, wow. Jesse, how can people distinguish frauds and amateurs? And this was one or the other. How can they distinguish that from real conferences?
I mean, I guess you just have to, like, yes, you got to do your research. You also have to see, like, is this new? Who's putting it on? Have they put it on before? Because it seems like every industry is going to have their fire festival, or their. I was trying to make a James Fry joke here, but I can't get the wording right. Friar festival, maybe. Anyway, there we go. Nailed it. All right. Yeah, I mean, you just got to be careful. I mean, there are scams everywhere, and we're onslaught with spam phone calls and texts these days, and so you gotta do your research, and honestly, never sign up for something that doesn't have a refund policy. Right? That's always a bad sign.
Yeah, that's saying no refunds on the page where you're supposed to lure people in. That is a bad sign.
No refunds on something that's brand new, like never a good sign. So,
Lara, and I think you agree. I believe in writing conferences. We host one every year for starters. Plus, I know many people who have gotten their first agent or gotten their first deal at conferences or cruises or retreats. How can people know what to do and where to go to advance their writing careers?
That's so difficult, especially if you're trying to give something brand new a chance. I'm sure it did sound very enticing, very fun. Who doesn't want to go to a black tie book event? I probably would have been showing it to you if I'd seen it. I do think, like Jesse said, it's so important to check to see who's behind it, who's putting it on, what kind of experience they have. And he makes an excellent point. If there is a no refunds on a brand new event, like nothing at all, it's so challenging. So many scams. I mean, even when people reach out to me for potential editing, they're many times apologetic. They're trying to, they're asking me legitimate questions, and I come back and say, these are smart questions. Do not apologize for being smart. Sure. I think we don't want to feel like we're being rude or something like that, but you do have to protect yourself. And I'm always happy to answer all of those questions. because I'm not in the business of scamming anyone. So
Yeah, I'm just shocked that, maybe I'm being too puritanical, but I am confident that whoever was behind this, they aren't writers. Writers don't do this sort of thing to one another. To me, writers are the most generous people on earth. And so if it wasn't writers, who was it? I mean, who said, aha, I know how to get people to come to an empty conference center. This is even better than Willy Wonka. Writers.
Yeah. Like no refund and black tie. That's 2 red flags. So, I'm like black tie. Like black tie seems indulgent for.
Well, I've seen conferences that had costume parties or dress up, but
But it's, I don't know. Some of us really like an excuse to break out.
Listen, I like wearing a tux too, but like for a convention where you're meeting people, I don't know. Like,
true.
It seemed like it's one of those details where you're like, what does this have to do with the purpose of the thing?
True.
Yeah.
But
all right. News story number 2, which possibly is even creepier than the first one. This is about Agatha Christie rising from the dead to teach you how to write.
She lives.
Right. You may be familiar with programs like Masterclass here in the United States, websites that have James Patterson, Jesse's favorite, or Dan Brown teaching people how to write. Well, there's a BBC similar program in the UK, which is now, for the first time, offering instruction from arguably the greatest, certainly the most successful mystery writer who ever lived, despite the fact that she died decades ago. Yes, the Christie estate has improved an AI reconstruction. I mean, there's an actual avatar, you see, of Agatha Christie talking to you, offering writing advice. Some of them are clips from past interviews, but the truth is she didn't give very many interviews. She didn't go in for that sort of thing. Most are simply AI generated, I don't know writing bits that they're putting in. I mean, it's pretty obvious stuff being put in Agatha Christie's AI lips. Here's the advertising on the website. Go check this out. It says, in a world first, the best-selling novelist of all time offers you an unparalleled opportunity to learn the secrets behind her writing in her own words, made possible today by Agatha's family, an expert team of academics and cutting-edge audio and visual specialists, as if she were teaching you herself.
I'm right here, Agatha Christie people. Come on.
You want to hear it, or are you willing to?
No, I want to work
advice?
On it. Yeah, I want to work on it.
You're ready? You're ready to go?
I'm ready for this avatar to murder someone, and then someone has to solve it. And that would be right on brand.
Do you think we could get the Christie avatar to come to WriterCon and maybe give a talk?
That'd be fascinating. It'd have to be remote. Unless we like a no,
put it on the screen,
holographic projector type thing.
Could be a first.
Could be.
And then our competitors will imitate it the next year, so maybe it's not worth doing. Lara, would you be willing to give this kind of instruction a try?
While I do think it's very important to keep learning and be open to anything that helps you learn, I don't know. Is there it's remote, isn't it? Is there a trip to England involved?
I do not think so. I think it's just staring at your computer screen.
I think I would want to know who is actually feeding the information into the avatar before I would hop in on.
If they had an AI engine and they fed it all 80 or whatever it is of her novels, maybe it could deduce a few things. I don't know.
It's weird that it's not using like information she publicly gave other than her books, right? She didn't give a lot of interviews. So like how is she gonna, like, characters in her books aren't gonna be able to tell you how to write.
Is it gonna say, use the little gray cells when you write your book?
I mean, listen, it'll probably tell you how to commit a murder and get away with it.
Right.
Or fail to get away from it.
It's always the least likely suspect.
That's right. You've met them early, but they were very not interesting. But you have to meet them early. I know that, at least.
Right. So you forgot about it, right?
Yeah.
Wow. World just keeps getting weirder.
I want to put this on record right now. When James Patterson does this, and he will, no one buy it.
He's already doing recorded interviews, but I guess this would be even less work than that. Just let in.
Oh yeah. Also, in one of the many airports I was in on my way from Ireland and back, I saw a James Patterson, Michael Crichton book, and I was like, "Shame on you, Michael Crichton."
Well, since he is also long gone, did they find an unfinished manuscript or something?
I need to look at that. I was just like, wait,
report back to us.
Yeah, all right. I'll do some research.
Craft Corner. This time in this episode, we're launching a fabulous, and I mean that, new series from Jon Meyers about various issues that come up for everybody who attempts to write fiction. This time, he's going to be talking about character development and specifically this really fascinating idea of using relationship theory to create your characters with more depth and more relatability. So take it away, Jon.
Craft Corner. Welcome, everybody, to WriterCon's Craft Corner. I'm Jon Meyers. I'm half of Write Better Together. My business partner, Emily Brooks, and her husband are expecting a child, and she's taking time off for a little while. So I'm flying solo here. Speaking of mothers and children, today I want to talk to you about using attachment theory when you develop your characters. Now, if you don't know what attachment theory is, 70 years ago, they started an experiment by putting a bunch of babies in a room with their mother. After they were all calm and everything was good, they removed the mother for a period of time, and then they returned the mother afterwards. About half of the babies took the mother back and were welcoming and were pleased. So those babies were determined to have a secure attachment style. About 20% of the babies had what you would call an anxious attachment style, and they were nervous while the mother was gone and were reticent to accept the mother back, but then eventually did. A third group of babies were aloof and distant and aggravated when the mom came back and ignored the mom, and those babies were deemed avoidant. Now, some of these have different names, so if you're familiar with attachment theory, it's evolved over the last 70 years. The breakdown that I just gave you was 50% secure, 20% avoidant, 20% anxious. Well, that leaves 10%, doesn't it? So in the 90s, subsequent researchers classified those as disorganized or fearful avoidance. So how does this affect you and your characters? Secure adults tend to have healthy, trusting, and supportive relationships. Anxious adults, also called preoccupied, often crave intimacy and may struggle with feelings of insecurity and fear of abandonment. Dismissive, also called avoidant, are likely to avoid emotional closeness and may prioritize independence over intimate relationships. Then the last one, the disorganized, the fearful avoidant, they have a fear of getting too close. Those are the least amount of people, 10%. Interestingly enough, when they take surveys nowadays, the percentages are about the same. It was 53% secure. One survey had 58% secure, 20% avoidant, 20% anxious, and then 10% disorganized, fearful avoidance. Now that you understand it, I'm going to give you a practical application of how to use it in your stories, whether you're writing scenes for a screenplay or passages for a book. You want believable tension and you want conflict. So if you have a bunch of secure attachment characters in the same scene over and over and over, how exciting is that going to be? To the contrary, you can't have all the disorganized, fearful avoidance because no one would want to read that book, right? If every character is despicable, these are the cheaters who can't keep their commitment. They're getting married on Saturday, but they have one last fling on Friday night. Those are the disorganized attachment people. I tried to think of some examples from books to give you, but I'm going to have to use some movies as well. Trying to find an example of secure adults in literature, that's a hard one, man. All I could think of is Gomez and Morticia Adams. They have a loving relationship. They support each other no matter what. They speak positivity into Wednesday, their daughter. They might be a little bit over the top, but they are definitely secure in their relationship. Anxious types, that one's easy. So you have Ross from Friends, you have Donkey and Shrek. When you pair two of them together, you have Gatsby and Daisy, both anxious types. However, even though Tom and Daisy have problems, Tom is an example of a secure attachment person. So that relationship is the more stable of the two. As far as avoidance, early Harry Potter. He goes to school. He doesn't want him to mesh with the other students. That's a great example. Elsa in Frozen, she's separated from her sister emotionally and physically, and they don't want to get close to each other. Now, the last one, the disorganized and fearful avoidant, just can't make a commitment. If you watch Succession, Shiv is that embodied. She can't commit to anything. You can't have a story with too many Shivs. So I'm in the middle of adapting a sitcom into a novel. It'll be out in time for WriterCon in September. It's really been eye-opening when I've tried to apply these attachment theories, because you want the characters to push the plot forward, but you can interchange some of the characters and some of those plots to make the conflict bigger or to make the conflict more challenging. Just like the example I gave with Gatsby and Daisy, if you put two anxious people in the same scene in a screenplay or passage in a book, it's going to be a different dynamic if one of them is a peacemaker and has a secure relationship attachment. Finally, I want to challenge you. Take your work in progress and see if you can apply these attachment theories to your characters. Then put your results down in the comments underneath the episode. And thank you, William, Laura, and Jesse.
Thank you so much, Jon Meyers. Now, let's talk to Mark Stevens. Mark Stevens, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a million for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. All right, traditional first question. If you could offer writers one piece of advice, what would it be?
Get yourself a network. The words don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
The writing will come. Get yourself a network. Get yourself friends in the writing world. If there's fellow aspiring writers, if there anybody you can find who's a published writer, chances are they're going to help and give you help and introduce you to people and make contacts and encourage you, and read your stuff when it's raw, read your stuff when it's better, and read your stuff when it keeps getting better, and be your cheerleader and hold you accountable for producing some copy and encourage you to keep writing. There's plenty of writing advice out there about the nuts and bolts and making scenes or making great cliffhanger endings, whatever it might be, but build your network, build it early.
That's great advice. Well, of course, I love that because that's what WriterCon is kind of all about. Meet up with some like-minded people and help one another, and it usually works. Now, you had several careers before you turned to writing, I think. You were in public relations and you were a reporter. You were in TV news producing, right?
Right.
Did you enjoy all that? Or and have you left it behind now? Or was...
I've had the luckiest career. From about sixth grade on, I knew I wanted to be a reporter. I thought there was something, just so interesting and kind of just... I don't think I thought it was romantic at the time, but I loved the idea of traveling and going to see things and learning about the world. And my mother would bring home the Boston Evening Globe. Of course, this is a long time ago because there was an evening paper, but I was in sixth grade and I'd take it to the couch and go read the evening paper in sixth grade, and just always wanted to be a reporter. I worked for my high school newspaper. I worked for my college newspaper. I was a full-time journalist a couple days after I graduated. I thought I would be a reporter forever. I spent the first 20 years in journalism.
Oh, wow.
And 4 different organizations, including working for a national news organization, public broadcasting, but still national news. And then I switched over, much to my surprise, into school public relations. I was shocked by that switch, but I really had a great career, both in journalism, one side of the fence throwing hand grenades, and the other side of the fence catching hand grenades as a public relations
right.
person and trying to keep them from not exploding. But so no, I'm still do a little bit of PR and still actually do a little bit of journalism too. So,
but somehow along the way, you turned your hand to writing fiction. How did that happen?
it happened in 1983. Gulp. I shouldn't even say that out loud. Yeah. Always been a reader of books as a kid. My parents were both librarians, if you can imagine growing up in such a wonderful household as that. I was the middle boy. I caught the reading bug, but never really thought I could write anything until somebody handed me a mystery. I didn't really know mysteries or crime fiction or anything like that until somebody handed me a Patricia Highsmith novel in 1983. And I started devouring crime fiction. And I thought, I think I could try this and at least take a stab at it. It's a much longer story than that, but it took another 23 years to get published. But
that's about average, I think.
Yep, I did get published, and
fantastic.
So, yeah.
And I want to talk about all that crime fiction for sure, and your new novel that's hovering over my shoulder right now. But I just have to say, you wrote an absolutely acclaimed baseball novel, right? How'd that come about?
Well, that came about the same guy who lured me over from the world of journalism into school district public relations. He was the superintendent at Denver Public Schools in the mid 1990s, and he offered me a chance to come work with him. Smart, thoughtful, even-keeled guy, not showy, not boisterous, not an egomaniac, just the opposite of all that. But he ran this huge organization. I really respected the heck out of him. Went to work for him. We became friends. In fact, the reason we became friends is because he spotted me reading a mystery novel one time outside of a board meeting. They were in a closed session, executive session, and I had hours to kill. This is pre-internet, and I was reading a mystery novel, and he came over and says, I love that book. And we became friends. He hired me over. We were friends from the mid 1990s on. And when we were having lunch one day out in the park eating a burrito, he casually said, you should write a book about a novel about a pitcher who ruins the game of baseball. And I casually said, what do you mean? And he said, imagine a pitcher who throws the baseball so fast that there's no time left to swing, which at the top speed of pitching today, it's just an incredible feat that a batter even manages to get a bat on a ball because it's such a hard thing to do. And if you just up that speed level a little bit, there's literally no time for the bat to come around. So it would be an existential threat to the game. And I went home that night and I kind of liked it, but I can't say I loved it. But then another part of the book just kind of came to me. And I called him back the next day and bounced that idea off him. He loved that second half of the idea. And then I called my agent. My agent said, stop everything and write that book.
Oh, sweet. Good agent, as it turned out, right?
Yeah. Good agent who actually had experience in the minor league system with the New York Yankees as a chief operating officer for the Staten Island Yankees. So he knew baseball and loved baseball. And he liked the book as well and managed to get it sold. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's most exciting. So your latest book is titled No Lie Lasts Forever. Tell us about that one.
Well, the idea is basically two characters, a protagonist and antagonist. Maybe I start with the antagonist because it's a little bit unusual. It's a retired serial killer, a guy who has committed his murders. He has stopped for 15 years. He's gone off to reform himself, kind of, sort of, and join the civilized world and kind of disappear into the urban landscape, so to speak, as just another guy. And he wants to go down in history as somebody who was successful, like many serial killers out there who become infamous and have drinks named after them and things like that. In the other corner is a TV reporter, a female TV reporter who's a veteran. She's been around. She thinks she's graduated from covering crime fiction to going on to cover meatier topics like the environment, things like that. And one day she gets drawn into a hostage-taking situation on live TV. She does a few things that are out of what the cops are asking her to do. The tragedy happens. She gets suspended from her station, and she is on the outs from her TV station. And right then, brand new serial killer case emerges. Our retired serial killer knows he did not do it. So he needs help clearing his name and making sure that this new victim is not attached to his legacy. And he certainly doesn't want the cops re-energized around investigating the whole thing. So he contacts her. And of course, at first she's like, he thinks he needs help, and he's going to ask her to help her figure out who did this latest one. And of course, she is like, no way, no how are you the guy? I don't believe you, through these encrypted messages that are coming through. So he figures out a pretty bold way to prove to her that it's him. And once he has convinced her that he's the real deal, it's kind of off to the races. And, he is feeding her information, but she also is trying to figure out who he is.
Right. No, it's a terrific premise. I will have to admit I didn't finish, but I got well into it when I got my advanced copy, and it was just absolutely riveting and full of surprises, plot twists. How do you come up with that stuff?
Well, for me, it's all organic. I have no idea where it's going.
What the listeners want to hear is, well, I go to this store and I pay a $20 fee every month, but that's not how it works, right?
No, it's just, just thinking of all the possibilities in every given situation. And if the current, and plot environment is rich enough, you should have some options. And it's always better to turn up the heat a little bit than to cool it down. It's always better to think of what is the worst thing that could happen right now for either character, and what is the last thing they want to have happen, and consider that as a possibility in every moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So with all those plot twists and all of the turns going on in your book, how do you start your project? I mean, you said you're it comes very organically to you. Are you saying that you're a pantser versus a planner? I mean, do you start with an outline, or how do you approach a new project?
Yeah, if I don't know what the word outline even means, I guess I could look it up, and I'm just mystified by people who outline. I think there's it must be some alien creatures from a distant dark planet who know how to do that. I am baffled by that whole notion. And I kind of respect it, but for me, if I were to have outlined, I would have, in my mind, entertained myself all the way to the end of the book. And I don't know if I'd be motivated to write it anymore, because I would know, I write to kind of entertain myself and to see where it's going. So, and people ask me if you ever write out a sequence, and even those people are I think they're crazy and need to be put away, because there's just impossible for me to imagine any other way than starting with a beginning. The beginning might change, but then following that along, and at least developing a draft. But people who can write like, I thought of a middle scene, or I thought of the ending, so I wrote the ending first. I don't know what school they went to.
I'm with you on that. I've had that question asked of me at conferences and such, and I can't think of any time that I ever stopped where I was at and went to write another scene down the line thinking, I'll use this later. But no, the story kind of develops in my mind. So notes or anything, or do you really just open up your laptop and just start typing? You just go.
Yeah. No notes. I mean, sure, I'll keep track of certain things or names or characteristics, things like that. But it basically everything you've written at that point is one big set of notes to go back to. And if your characters are clear enough in your mind and sharp enough in your mind, you shouldn't have to go back too often. I mean, figuring out little logistics and making sure that it's all consistent in the end, but that can come out in the editing process. It's just sort of like a story just unfolding, and I just want to see where it goes. And I don't know.
That's fascinating. It's intriguing to me. We interview a lot of people, and I think we get a different approach from almost everyone. And I think it's just wonderfully brilliant that so many people can come at it from a different place and yet end up with a great book at the end. What does a typical writing day look like for you? Like, what's your process?
Yeah, I have been at the 5 a.m. Writers Club since 1983. That I realized I was working, full time. We started having kids. We had two daughters in 92 and 96. And, I realized that if I was going to make a commitment to this, that the only way I was going to be able to be productive on a regular basis was to get up and get at it for 2 hours every day. Weekends too. I mean, I don't kill myself or beat myself up if I miss a day or something's happening. I do like on the road traveling, even if, just getting up from the hotel room and going downstairs to the coffee shop. It just becomes part of your system. And if your writer brain is thinking about the story and where you are in the story, you've got to go produce so you can keep filling in that next question for the day of where do we go from here. So it's a dining room table. It used to be, I wrote by hand for the first like 6 or so books were all by hand. And I've slowly switched over to a laptop because of the, I started to get some deadlines from editors and things like that. So it's a little bit faster.
Good problem to have though.
Yes. Yeah. Indeed. Yep.
I also still like writing in my spiral notebook, my first draft, and then transitioning that into the Word document. My process hasn't changed, and I don't think that it probably will.
Excellent. Good for you. I wish I was still there in some ways. I love that. And people ask, why do you like that? And I say, I love two things about it. No possibility for jumping on the internet because it's just my notebook, dining room table, and the pen. And the other crazy thing is I love the sound of writing. It sounds crazy because just that little scratch. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm there with you. Now, you wrote this novel in present tense. Is that right?
I noticed that too. Yeah.
Was that a challenge for you, or like what led you to make that artistic choice?
Okay, quick story. I'll make this as fast as I can. This story actually is a book I started writing in 2001. The idea for this book came to me in 2001, and I got a couple little odd offers from agents at the time, and I basically shut that process down. And I just kept it in my back pocket and kept working on it. And I got in the rhythm of writing my mystery series. And then when that ended, and lots of little agent back and forth, I won't go into. When it finally sold and went to its first editor in April of 2014, 13 months ago, its very first editor. My agent had it for about 6 years. He always liked the novel. We got into the baseball novel, produced that. The editor who liked the baseball novel didn't want to see my crime fiction. So I wrote another novel for her, which is still being shopped because she didn't care for the follow-up. And so I pulled out the No Lie when it sold in April of 2014. And I opened it up and it was in past tense. And I couldn't, I knew the minute I saw the opening pages, I said, this is wrong. I had written, I just didn't feel right. So in a month, I converted the whole thing to present tense without even asking the editor if that was okay. I quickly bounced it off my agent, showed him a couple pages, and he said, that's absolutely the right way to go. And I've had many people, comment on it. I just think it lends an immediacy to it. It's tricky in spots to pull off, but it just adds a little level of urgency for a thriller. It's kind of a mystery, but it's also got some thriller vibes, I think, in terms of how it's structured. So I just knew I really almost recoiled when I was reading it past tense.
We're seeing a lot of books. We're seeing a shift to that. I mean, 5-10 years ago, it was far more rare to see a book written in present tense, but we're moving more and more in that direction. I'm even getting used to it. It used to jar me when I would open a book and start reading, and it was in present tense, but I'm getting accustomed to it. I can adapt. This is your third novel? Have I got that right?
This
Third?
is number
Seven.
seven. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
7. Okay, even better.
Five books in the mystery series, the Alison Coyle mystery series, then the Fireballer, and then this. So,
what are some things that you've learned so far? I mean, that's a pretty good writing journey. Are there some things you can share for our listeners?
well, even after being published, you get better. At least for me, I'm a really slow learner, but reading some of my things that did get published, in fact, when the 5 books in my mystery series were with 3 different small publishers, the last of which was Midnight Inc., which medium-sized national house out of Minnesota that had about 80 or so crime fiction authors, but they shut down.
They did. Another friend of mine was published by then. I knew where you were going with that.
And so I got my rights back from all 3 publishers, and I republished all 5 books under my own name to keep them alive. And thank God for the tools and systems of independent publishing to be able to do that. But when I republished book 1, I had to rewrite it. My standards had changed. My idea of sentence craft, paragraph organization, extraneous crap, just things that mattered and didn't matter. I knew I had to rewrite it. I couldn't put that back out and feel good about it. So, even if you think you're good, I would really urge you to leave open the possibility of the fact that you might get better, and to keep that open mind will, benefit you for a long, long time. And, I would, if being open mind to your own level of what quality you're shooting for, and also really being open-minded to the editors you get to work with when you sell a book.
And you have just described exactly why I have never reread any of my early novels and never will. I have a hunch I wouldn't love the experience. So before we sign off, Mark, what's coming up next, or what are you working on now?
Well, the editor's reading a sequel. I thought it was a standalone. She told me, no, this is not a standalone. You need to find a way to keep this story going. It'll be a tight 3-book trilogy, if all goes well, over and out with my main character, Flynn Martin. And then there's a book set in the world of rock and roll that my agent is selling right now. It's on the market. So that's what's next,
Fingers
I hope.
Crossed. Yeah, I want to read that one. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Thank you for all you do. Yeah, you bet.
Just a few parting words. This will probably be the last time this year you'll hear me talk about the WriterCon Cruise, but that's because it's about to happen. So if you're going to join us, join up fast. And I really hope you will. We have worked double hard to find a cruise that is beautiful, but affordable, and still leaves us plenty of time to do the writing work. In fact, I made the schedule yesterday and mapped out, okay, we're at sea this day, so we'll meet more. We're in Sitka that day, so we'll just meet after the boat pulls out. You'll have plenty of time for sightseeing and some beautiful country, but we're also going to roll up the sleeves and get some real writing work done, trying to take what you've got and push it to the next level. That's May 31st through June 7th. It leaves from Seattle, and it's not too late to sign up. Just go to writercon.com and look at the cruise page. And if you have any questions, click on contact, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right?
But it's almost too late, so don't wait too much longer.
It's almost too late.
Yeah, don't wait. It's time to
why wait?
Come on. Where else are you gonna work on your book and get to see whales?
Yeah.
This is gonna be so much fun, and I'm so ready, to get away, you guys. I'm so ready.
A valid point. All right, everybody. Until next time, keep writing, and remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit. See you next time.